Hello friends, this is our fourth of our little asynchronous Bible studies in Mark. So we're going to be looking at Mark chapter 4. As in the previous ones, at points I just ask you to pause, go and look at it yourself, read it for yourselves. So if you've got a Bible with you, that'll help. If not, go grab one, come back when you have. But the first thing we're going to do is read Mark chapter 4, and the question we're asking ourselves is what stands out? So highlight yourself, make a mental list, or write it down if that's helpful. What stands out to you? What are the things that you find are surprising or weird or make you question? Okay, press pause, see you in a second. Okay, here's my list. It's some of the things that stood out to me in Mark chapter 4. Lots of people struggle to understand Jesus' parables. Whew, few. And yet, surprisingly, he did not teach in parables to make things easier for them. He taught in parables to make it harder. That seems surprising. He was then very happy, though, to explain this to his followers, which should give us hope, because as his followers, he will explain it to us by the Holy Spirit and by his word. Jesus seems to be keen that some don't hear. Why is it that he is hiding the truth about the kingdom from some, or so it seems? All of these different parables about seeds and growing things, should we spot something about that? Should we somewhere be reading them together? Is there some sort of theme going on here? And then once we get past that section of parables, we get to the most dramatic story, possibly, certainly in the early part of Mark, one of the most dramatic stories in the Gospels, which in some ways belongs to the section in the Mark chapter 5, but we encounter it right here. Jesus and the storm. Jesus asleep in a boat. Jesus, who is happy sleeping in the middle of a big old storm, and then gets woken up by the disciples because they're terrified and just says, "Stop it," to the weather, and it does instantly. Oh my. It's quite something. So we're going to go back and we're going to read the chapter again, but this time we're going to go to it with some of our questions. So why is it that Jesus wants to hide some of the truth about the kingdom? Why is it that he is putting all these seed parables next to each other? Do they read together? Why is it that he seems to be keen that some don't hear? And what does the storm tell us about him? So press pause again, go and read it again with those questions, just kind of read through what's actually going on this time around. Okay, see you in a second. Okay, so what's going on? Find the parable of the sower to start with, different kinds of seed falling in different places, growing differently. We've got to ask ourselves, which are we? I find that beautiful promise that the seed that grows in good soil bears fruit to be really encouraging, but of course does leave us with the challenge, are we bearing fruit 30, 60, 100-fold? Because he promises us we will if we grow in good soil. Is that what our life looks like? If not, why not? Why is it that Jesus is hiding in parables? Well, he tells us in this chapter. He tells us, firstly, so through the parable of the sower, so that their hearts will out, so that we'll discover what's inside people's hearts as they react to the good news. And because all will be revealed in time. Did you notice that in those growing parables? There's this real sense that things have to grow at the right rate and the right time. He talks in parables and he hides the truth of the kingdom because it needs to be revealed at the right time. It's been such a theme for Mark. We've seen it already. His timing is important. Where have we seen that theme already in Mark? Can you start to recall some places? Again, leave me a comment, love to see what you think, or talk it over with a friend. Where have we started already to see this theme of time, which I think is one of Mark's largest themes? Where have we seen it already? And what is that beginning to point us towards? And then when we take all of those parables together, what did you come up with? Is there sort of a central sense to them? Because I noticed a few things. I noticed that the small kingdom we're hearing will grow. I noticed that God is preparing the harvest. I noticed that it doesn't all come at once. I noticed that he's telling us to look for the harvest. So he's telling us the kingdom will be like these seeds that grow, that God is preparing. That will get bigger and larger over time, but that we need to be ready for. And then we get to the story, of the storm, where this shark wind, that's what local fishermen called it, on the Sea of Galilee has risen up. They're still terrified of them today, and it is going to destroy the boat, or the series of boats. And then Jesus somehow sleeps through that, calm as a baby, but then is awoken and very simply tells it to stop. And the disciples say, "Who is this man?" Well, that should be our question. What do you think? Who is this man? What's it telling us about him? Allow the shock of the storm to settle on you. This is pretty surprising stuff. Jesus is asleep. What does that tell us about him? And then Jesus is able to control and command the power of nature. What does that tell us about him? And then also, if we know our Bibles a little bit, we know that seas particularly are a sign of evil in the Bible, a symbol of evil or of death. And so again, we see, and this is linked to what comes in the next chapter, but we see Jesus' command over the powers of evil. He's just taught on Satan. He said that he's plundering his house, and now he's able to control the storm. These things are connected, and we should see their connections. Okay, final question. What does this tell us about Jesus? Press pause, write yourself a list. Everything it tells you about Jesus. Love to see in a second. Okay, here's my list. Love to hear if you get anything that isn't on my list. But Jesus taught in the language of his listeners, particularly using arable metaphors. He explained his meaning to his friends, which means he will explain it to us. He is the master gardener who is growing his kingdom. Jesus isn't in a hurry. Wow. I mean, you could take that one to the bank. You'd dine on that for a while. Let that settle in. Jesus is not in a hurry, but instead is timing it perfectly, waiting for the right time to come, growing disciples to bear fruit. And Jesus has power over nature, and he has power over evil, and he is profoundly unafraid. Wow. That's a God worth worshipping. What else did you get on your list? What does it tell us about Jesus? Perhaps it's rising your heart towards worship. Well, turn this off, throw your phone away and go and worship the living King. Great thing to spend your time doing. But even if you don't respond like that immediately, what are you going to do about this? How is Mark chapter 4 going to change you? What's it changing in your loves, in your heart, in your affections, in what you do and what you think and what you feel? Okay, see you soon.